Hi, I'm Ethan. 38. The kind of guy who thinks too much before buying a new toothbrush. Last month, I bought my parents a $600,000 mountain cabin for their retirement, a place I imagined them drinking cocoa on the porch while snow fell on the pines. 1 week later, they sold it. Without telling me. I know that sounds like a setup for a bad sitcom. It wasn't funny. It felt like the ground giving out under my own good intentions. My parents, Frank and Linda, raised me in a one-bedroom apartment over my dad's garage workshop in Utah. He was a mechanic, Mom a bookkeeper. We didn't have vacations. We had weekend drives to wherever the gas tank could afford. I swore, as a kid sitting on the oil-stained floor, that one day I'd buy them something that didn't leak when it rained. I did well: software engineering, stock options, the kind of luck you almost feel guilty for. So when Dad's back started giving out and Mom began sighing after every phone call about bills, I started hunting for a place where they could finally exhale. The cabin was perfect: cedar walls, a fireplace big enough for a small bear, windows that framed the Rockies like a painting. I pictured my mom's knitting basket by the couch. My dad fixing the creaky steps with that old grin he gets when he's useful again. I paid in full. $600,000. Transferred the deed in their names, no strings attached. I told them it was my way of saying you can stop surviving now. The day I handed them the keys, my mom cried so hard she laughed. My dad hugged me awkward, too long, like he didn't trust himself to let go. You did this for us? He said. I said, of course I did. You earned a view. We drove up together. Snow was still clinging to the branches, melting slow. My dad ran his hands over the railing like it was some kind of living thing. I always wanted wood like this, he murmured. Mom kept repeating, it smells like peace. That night, we sat by the fire. They fell asleep on the couch, hand in hand, faces warm from the glow. I took a photo. Sent it to my girlfriend with the caption, finally did something right. A week later, I got a notification from the county recorder's office, a property transfer request. I thought it was an error. But when I opened the PDF, my stomach turned. My parents had sold the cabin. To a couple named the Sandersons. Cash buyers. Closed in 2 days. No call. No text. Nothing. Just gone. I stared at the PDF for 5 full minutes like it might rearrange itself into a misunderstanding. The names were clear. The sale amount was even lower than I paid, $550. I'd bought it for $6. I ran the numbers again like maybe I'd made a mistake and dreamed the other $50,000. They didn't just sell the house. They took a loss. I called my mom first. She answered like it was a Sunday check-in. Hey sweetheart, she said. How's the weather down there? I asked her calmly at first. Did you sell the cabin? There was a long silence. Then she sighed. Ethan, listen, we needed to talk to you about that. About what? Well, about why we did it. She passed the phone to my dad. I could hear them whispering before he took the line. Son, he said, and just that son in the voice he used when I scraped my knee as a kid. It wasn't meant to hurt you. Then explain, I said. Because I bought you that house so you'd never have to worry about a landlord again. And a week later you flipped it like it was a Craigslist couch. He started saying something about taxes. About how the maintenance out there might get tough. About how it's so far from everything. We didn't want to be a burden, Ethan. I said. You weren't a burden. You were the reason. There was another pause. Then my dad said, look, it's already done. We used the money to pay off the credit cards and medical bills. And your Uncle Rich needed help with his truck. You know he hasn't worked since. I stopped him right there. You sold your retirement cabin to help Uncle Rich? Family's family, he said, as if that was a magic spell that erased all logic. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat on the floor of my condo, staring at a framed photo on my bookshelf, the one of the 3 of us at the cabin, smiling with mugs of hot cocoa like a holiday ad. It already looked like a memory someone else had lived. I hung up. Then I drove. 3 hours into the mountains, still numb. I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to see. Maybe the Sandersons out front in sweaters, smiling like they just hit the jackpot. Maybe a for sale sign I could rip out of the ground. What I found was worse. The cabin was already empty. Windows shuttered. The porch light gone. A single piece of mail still hanging out of the mailbox, a flyer for snow tires. I got back in my car. Turned on the heat. Sat there in park. I thought about the day I bought it. The way I'd picked the furniture. The mugs I'd picked out to match Mom's old ones. The shelf I made for Dad's workshop tools he'd never get to use there. They didn't just sell a cabin. They sold what I gave them to feel safe. The next morning, I drove straight to their place, the 2-bedroom rental near the train tracks they'd been in for 10 years. The porch light buzzed like it always had. Same chipped gnome by the steps. My parents had sold a mountain cabin with a fireplace and came back here. I didn't knock. I walked in. My mom was at the kitchen table clipping coupons. My dad was balancing a mug of instant coffee on a stack of unopened mail. They looked up like I just caught them sneaking out of a hotel room. My mom said, "Ethan, honey, you should have called." "No," I said. "You should have." My dad stood up. "Look, son. We didn't want to make you feel like your gift came with expectations." I dropped the manila folder I'd brought. It hit the table like a gavel. Inside, the signed deed I transferred to their names, the closing costs I'd covered, the receipts for the furniture, the prepaid utilities, the snowplow service I'd booked for the next winter. "You think I did all this for applause?" I said. "You think I needed you to write a thank you note or bake me cookies? I did it because you worked every day of your lives and never had anything to show for it. Because I could. And because I thought I hoped you might finally feel kept instead of always keeping up." My mom put her head in her hands. My dad rubbed the back of his neck. "It's more complicated than that," he muttered. "Is it?" I said. "You sold it in 7 days. That's not second thoughts. That's a decision. One you made without telling me. You didn't just undo the gift, you erased the story that went with it." They were quiet. Then my mom whispered something I wasn't ready for. "We didn't feel like we deserved it." Those 6 words hit harder than any insult ever could. I sat down slowly. "You didn't feel like you deserved it?" She nodded, eyes glassy. "It was too nice, Ethan. Too quiet. Too much space. We kept looking around thinking, who are we kidding? We didn't know what to do with ourselves. We're not cabin people. We're plastic sled and hot dog people." My dad added, "And when Rich called, and then your cousin Leah with the baby formula thing, it just felt like we could do more good with the money than sitting around watching elk." My hands curled into fists under the table. "So you gave up a home to fix other people's messes again?" Silence. I exhaled hard. "I didn't give you that cabin so you could feel guilty. I gave it to you so you could rest. You gave that up for a list of people who never give you a sandwich without Venmo requesting it back." My mom flinched. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is watching 2 people who gave me everything sell the one good thing that was theirs just because it scared them to finally have something good." I stood. Looked around the apartment I'd outgrown when I was 12. Every photo here had duct tape on the corners. Every chair had a story of who broke it and when. It smelled like laundry and frozen pizza and something unspoken. "You want to live like this forever?" I said. "Fine. But don't expect me to pretend it's noble." I left before they could answer. I didn't cry until I hit the freeway. 2 days later, I got a text from my cousin. "Your folks are telling people you made them sell the cabin. That you needed the money back." I stared at the screen so long my phone dimmed. Then I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. It was like watching a magic trick in reverse. 1 minute you're holding the rabbit. The next, it's gone and somehow your fault. I didn't go nuclear. I did what I always do, I opened a spreadsheet. I started listing out every dollar I'd ever given them. $600,000 for the cabin. $7,200 for the new roof 2 years ago. $1,400 for that dental bill last spring. $900 for groceries after Dad's surgery. $3,500 for the used Buick. $500 loan to cover Mom's sister's vet bill. $15,000 emergency buffer they used after Uncle Rich's DUI. It added up fast. I wasn't trying to tally up love. I just needed to see it cold, hard, undeniable. Proof that this guilt I was feeling wasn't some failure of gratitude, but a reaction to betrayal. Because that's what this was. Not confusion. Not a mix-up. Not old people making a mistake. It was betrayal. And it got worse. That Friday, my boss called me in. Apparently someone had posted a comment under the company's official LinkedIn page anonymously questioning my ethics. Engineer who can afford to buy luxury property but lets his family go into debt? I knew who it was before I even finished reading. Kyle. My sister's husband. A guy who wears his backwards hat to funerals and once tried to expense a Vegas trip on emotional burnout. He'd always resented me. Said I made the rest of the family feel poor. Now suddenly my generosity had become an indictment. I emailed HR, cleaned it up fast. But the stink lingered. Even in the office kitchen, I felt it like I was radioactive. Like maybe I'd done something. I called my dad. Did you say something to Kyle? I might have mentioned it, he said. He asked what happened. I didn't want to get into the details. You didn't get into the details, so he just made up his own version. And now I look like I stole from my own parents. He exhaled. I didn't think it'd go that far. I laughed bitter. That's the problem. You never do. You just hope people are decent. We were trying to help. No, I said. You were trying to escape feeling like you didn't belong in something good. And instead of sitting in that discomfort and growing, you cashed out the future I built for you. He didn't reply. That weekend, I got a call from a realtor. Not mine, the Sandersons. Hey, she said chipper. I just wanted to thank you. The upgrades you put in helped us flip it quick. We actually just closed against $705,000. Crazy, right? I said nothing. She kept going. Market's insane right now. That view? Gold. Honestly, you did most of the work. They just polished it up and relist. My tongue was stone in my mouth. My parents hadn't just sold the cabin. They'd handed it to someone who made $150,000 off it in under 3 weeks. And they were still living 2 blocks from a Dollar Tree. The next Sunday, I knocked on their door again. No warning this time. No text. I wanted them to see me angry, not cruel, not cold, just done playing the quiet, grateful son who never made anyone feel bad. My dad opened it. He looked smaller than I remembered. Like someone had vacuum sealed the life out of him since I left last. I walked in. Straight to the kitchen. Dropped a crisp printout on the table. What's that? He asked. An invoice, I said. He glanced down. His eyebrows twitched. You're charging us now? No, I said. I'm reminding you. Every dollar. Every time. Every time you said we'll pay you back and I said don't worry about it. Every time you looked down at your shoes instead of at me when I helped. Every time I watched you choose your pride over your peace, and I swallowed my frustration like it was my job to protect you from your own fear of needing help. My mom came out of the hallway, rubbing her hands on her sweatshirt. Ethan. No, I said. You need to hear this. I pulled out the photo again. The one from the cabin, their faces lit up by the fireplace. I slid it across the table like evidence. You looked happy. That wasn't fake. You looked like people who finally had a place they could exhale. My mom's lip trembled. And you sold it, I continued. Because you didn't feel worthy. Because you thought maybe if you helped everyone else, it would make you feel better about having something good. That's not generosity. That's self-erasure with a ribbon on top. She tried again. We didn't mean. Stop, I snapped. You didn't mean to break it, but you did. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. You didn't mean to tell people I needed the money back, but here we are with my cousin texting me like I'm some slick bastard who threw my parents out of a log cabin and stole their throw blankets on the way out. My dad sat down quiet. We thought we were doing the right thing. For who? I asked. Kyle? Uncle Rich? People who treat your kindness like a tab they never intend to pay off. Silence. I bought that house because I believed in something you apparently couldn't, that you were allowed to enjoy your lives without owing anyone for it. And now, not only is it gone, but you've rewritten the story so I'm the villain? My mom's voice cracked. We were scared, Ethan. That's the truth. We're not used to owning things. We're not used to people just giving us things without needing something back. I leaned forward. Then learn. Because the next time someone gives you a gift, the answer isn't to run. It's to stay. To breathe. To say thank you and mean it without guilt choking it out of your throat. My mom cried. My dad looked away. And for a second, I felt like a monster. But then I remembered every Christmas I paid for, every late fee I covered, every holiday I spent alone while they hosted a dozen freeloading relatives because they didn't have anywhere else to go. I remembered sitting in that cabin, alone, the day after they sold it, with that half-burnt smell still lingering in the air. And I remembered what it felt like to see a good thing get thrown away by people who couldn't hold still long enough to believe they deserved it. You didn't just sell a house, I said. You sold the home I built for you. That was the gift. And you didn't even ask me first. They didn't answer. I stood up. I'll keep helping with the medical bills. Because I'm your son. But I won't be fixing any more fires you start trying to save people who don't want saving. If you want a future with me in it, it has to start with honesty. Not guilt. Not rewriting the story to make yourselves look smaller and more noble. Just truth. My mom whispered, I'm sorry. I nodded. Then start acting like it. I left the invoice on the table. Not because I expected them to pay it, but because some debts aren't about dollars. They're about clarity. And for once, I needed them to see it all. The following week, everything went quiet. Not a single call, not a single text. Not from them, not from anyone. It was the kind of silence that sits in your throat like you swallowed something too sharp and now you're just waiting to bleed. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I didn't vent to friends or put some veiled post on Instagram about betrayal. I went to work. I coded. I ate. I ran. And every night, I lay down in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if maybe I had been too hard on them. Then the email arrived. Subject: Re-cabin. From Dad. Time: 2:03 a.m. Body: We understand if you don't want to talk to us right now. We were wrong. About all of it. We didn't sell the house because we thought it was bad. We sold it because it felt too good. That's the honest truth. We thought if we gave the money away, we could spread the good around. Turns out, we just spread ourselves thin again. You didn't deserve the story we told other people. We're sorry. And we love you. Dad. I read it twice. Then again. It didn't fix anything. But it was the first time they hadn't tried to wrap the mess in duct tape and nostalgia. That Saturday, I took a long drive. No GPS. Just the wheel and some aimless hope. I ended up near the mountains. Not the same ones, a different pass. Less postcard perfect. Harsher roads. But the air was sharp and honest, and I pulled over just to sit and breathe. Then my phone buzzed. Mom. Text. We're at Leah's for the afternoon. There's leftover lasagna in the fridge if you come by. No pressure. No guilt. Just space. I turned around. When I walked in, the apartment looked the same always did, but something in it felt looser. Less clenched. My dad had cleared the table. My mom had labeled the Tupperware. I sat down. Ate cold lasagna. No one asked why I came. No one made small talk. Eventually my mom said, We saw a different cabin came up in Reading. Little place. Nothing like the other one. But we drove up just to look. My stomach dropped. She caught it. We didn't buy anything. We just tried. To imagine it again. To imagine having something. My dad added. It felt less scary this time. More possible. I nodded. Slowly. Then he said something I'll never forget. You've been our safety net for so long, Ethan, we forgot how to stand. And when you gave us the cabin, it was like we were walking a high wire with no fear, and we panicked. We thought if we climbed down, we'd feel safer. But we didn't. We just felt small. I didn't cry. I just looked at them, two people who spent their whole lives giving, and when finally given something back, didn't know how to hold it. I just wanted you to rest. I said. My mom reached across the table. We're learning how. That night I stayed. We didn't talk about houses. Or spreadsheets. Or bills. We watched a bad movie. My dad fell asleep snoring. My mom offered me a blanket, and I said no, I was fine. And I was. For the first time in a month, I slept through the night. And when I woke up, I realized forgiveness wasn't the same as forgetting. But it was a way back in. A few days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Ethan L? The woman asked, sharp and chirpy. Who's asking? Margot Sanderson, she said. We bought your parents' cabin. Technically, we're the second buyers. Quick flip. You probably already know. I stiffened. I do. Well, funny story, we never actually moved in, she said. We were going to turn it into a retreat, but then we bought something in Oregon instead. So we're listing the cabin again. Just wanted to see if you wanted first dibs before it goes public. I froze. You're offering to sell it back to me? I asked. Well, you fixed it up beautifully. Someone named E.L. had excellent taste. Hardwood floors, full energy retrofit, those custom windows? Everyone loves the place. You'd be buying back a masterpiece. I asked the price. She quoted $785,000. I almost laughed. I sold it to you for $550. She snorted. Then you really blew it, huh? I didn't answer. I hung up. Then I sat with the idea. Buy it back. Pay another $200,000 just to own what I'd already paid for once. My gut said no. My heart? It wouldn't stop pacing. That night I told my parents. They went still. Mom covered her mouth. Dad blinked slow like his brain needed a second to catch up. You could buy it again? My mom asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. And then what? Dad said. You let us move back in? After what we did to it? I didn't say I would. I said. I said I could. Big difference. Silence. Then I added. If I bought it again, it wouldn't be for you. Mom flinched. Dad looked down. Not as a punishment, I said. Just, this time it wouldn't be a gift. It would be something I build. For me. For my own version of rest. Maybe someday for you to visit. But not to fix. Not to carry. Not to erase. They were quiet for a long time. Then Mom said, That hurts. But I understand. And I believed her. I bought the cabin. Full price. No haggling. I wired the funds in silence and told no one. No social post. No ribbon cutting. No driveway photos. I changed the locks. Hired a local caretaker. Stocked the fridge with things I like: good butter, better whiskey. I added a bookshelf. Hung new curtains. Left the fireplace empty on purpose, like a room waiting to be filled. The first time I went up alone, I stood in the living room and listened. No one was there. No parents, no guilt, no invisible audience of extended relatives waiting to pounce. Just me. And you know what? It felt good. Not triumphant. Not revenge. Why? Just right. Later that week, I got a text from my dad. Your mother says she's proud of you. I want to say the same. But it's more than that. I'm relieved that you finally made something for yourself. And I hope, one day, you'll let us earn the right to sit beside you in it, not because we gave birth to you, but because we finally figured out how to receive. I cried. Not loud. Not long. Just enough. I left the porch light on that night. Not for them. For me. Because this time, I was the one coming home. 3 weeks after I bought the cabin back, my mom asked if she could visit. Just her. No fanfare. No cousins or casseroles or side agendas. Just for the afternoon, she said, like she was asking for directions instead of permission. I said yes. With one rule, we don't talk about the past unless I bring it up. She agreed. I picked her up from the bus station. She'd packed light, just a canvas bag and a paperback mystery novel sticking out the top. When we reached the cabin, she didn't say anything at first. Just looked up at the roofline and nodded softly, like it was something she dreamed about and finally saw in color. Inside, I made coffee. Real coffee. The kind I buy for myself now, without guilt or discount codes. We sat at the kitchen island, me on a stool, her perched like she was afraid of leaving crumbs behind. I slid a plate toward her. Eat. She picked up a biscotti and held it like it was some fragile antique. Smells better than I remember. It's mine now, I said, not cold, just factual. I know, she replied. And I'm glad. We didn't talk much. We looked out the back window at the pines. Watched the snow melt slowly from the deck. She told a story about an old neighbor from our childhood apartment, a woman who used to dry laundry on her car antenna. I laughed. She laughed with me. It was easy, like a song we still knew. When she left, she paused at the front door. Ethan, she said, we're trying. We really are. I nodded. Trying's good. She squeezed my hand. That's all. 2 days later, Dad texted me a photo of his workshop. He'd cleaned it out. Cleared the hoarder chaos. Said it was time to make room for the next chapter. He didn't say more. He didn't need to. Something had shifted. Not dramatically. No confetti. Just gently. Like the click of a puzzle piece you forgot was missing. After that, we kept a new rhythm. Not constant. Not codependent. Just intentional. I didn't give them more money. I didn't bail out anyone else. But I did invite them to the cabin once more, on a warm April morning. This time, they knocked. This time, They brought lunch they made themselves. This time, my dad asked permission before stepping into the den. We sat on the deck, the three of us, watching clouds shift over the ridgeline. I grilled burgers. My mom brought pickles in a little mason jar. My dad wore that old fleece I bought him a decade ago, the one he always saved for special. They didn't try to apologize again. They didn't pretend it hadn't happened. They just existed with me. Side by side. Not as charity cases. Not as burdens. As people. That night, after they left, I stood alone in the doorway again. Same cabin. New rules. And I realized something that made my throat tighten. The cabin wasn't just a gift for them. It was a boundary I could live inside. It was proof that I didn't have to bleed to belong. It was mine not because I paid for it twice, but because I finally stopped trying to save everyone at the cost of myself. Love doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. Love means building a fire and saying, "There's room here if you want it, but I'm not freezing so you can feel more comfortable." I slept soundly that night. No dreams. No guilt. Just warmth, and the quiet hum of a home that finally knew who it was for. In the morning, I opened every window. Let the wind in. And let go of the version of me who thought being a good son meant sacrificing until there was nothing left. That version did his best. But this one? This version lives here now. In peace. And the door still locks. Because love, when it's real, has limits. And that's not cruelty. That's how you keep it safe.